Okay, so in this session, the thing that we're going to focus on is on creating the caustics. So for this, it's best perhaps that we go a little bit down here. And creating the caustics is we will need to import again a set of layers, which are these ones, the blue, green and red caustics. Now the naming is not correct over here, so we will have to figure out which ones are which. But for now, just let's place them as they are over here. Let's have a look at them. So what we see is, right over here we see green, red and a purple version. And the reason is because I needed to use transparent surfaces in order to create the different kinds of colors with multiple color layers. Okay, so how we're going to deal with this is same ritual as always. We take over here the three controllers or the three channel splitters, and gonna make something like this over here. Connect them all. Connect them all, and connect them all. Okay, let's now examine what we have. So for the red channel, as you can see, we have the part which is close to the glass and also the top part. Over here we see the same thing but for the other glass, and right here we see like only the top part. So the thing what we need to do, we need to make sure that we remove this top part somehow from this whole thing. So first step that we're gonna do is we're gonna use a composition, and in this composition we're gonna do a math operator. And in this math operator we're not going to add, but we're going to subtract this whole part. So like this we get like nicely a separation of each element. So that's what we first need to do. Also because I see over here we have like this brighter part and something we don't have over here. We need to make sure that we're gonna clamp this value exactly for the lower values. So with the color correction, clamp color, I'm gonna make sure that only the lower versions or the lower values are clamped. Let's just set it over here like really high. So again, this is something we need to repeat for all of these. Up, like that. Oops, it's not what I had expected. So strange why it's connecting like this. Anyways, then we do it the other way around. Oh, it's still connecting the same way. Alright, then manually. I thought it was just keeping the order of selection. Alright, so the thing that we see over here are actually the differences in ranges. And what we can see over here now, we can already see and check which one is the middle part, which one is the outer, which one is the smallest part. So let's change this. I'm gonna change the order. So we have them that we have them a little bit in the right ordering of recombining everything. So the reason why I'm having like 3 different versions of this is because I'm creating some kind of a prism effect, and therefore I've rendered like 3 caustics with each of them having like a separate index of refraction, and so that's what we're going to combine right now. Okay, now in order to get like the proper coloring, what we're going to do is first we're going to give them like a color correction for each one of the nodes. Color correction, we're gonna use right over here color correction basics, and let's just zoom in a little bit, making it easier to connect. Okay, so we have this glass over here, and let's say that the outer versions, the outer colors, are the ones which are not going to be bended with light so much. So the higher energies are going to be bended inwards, and the lower energies are going to be bent outwards. So this one is going to get like a reddish color. These ones are going to get like a green color, and over here we're going to give this one a blue color. Alright, and so now we can combine them. Oops. Now we can combine them. So that we have like this dispersion effect over here. Okay, and we're going to repeat that process exactly for all the other ones as well. So for this one we will need exactly the same process. So right here, this color correction and this color correction. So each one of them is going to be combined. So this means that this one goes with what we have over here and with this one. So that's our rainbow effect right there. This one goes with this one, and as last one what we have over here. And so that's a rainbow effect for the top. So we see that on just small details. So again we have like a tremendous amount of control over here. You just have to make sure that you have like the right deformation, resolution and everything you need. So at the end the only thing that you need to do is to make sure that you have like the right combinations. Now in this case we have both of the same type of liquid, so we can again combine both of these together, and then when they're combined we can start using a global color correction. Color correction basics, and so the type of color we're gonna give them is gonna give them like this reddish kind of color. Something like this. And we do exactly the same over here, but except in this case we're not going through the liquid, and so this is going to stay fairly white, or just perhaps very slightly yellowish tone, but very subtle. just enough to give it like the sun tunnel color. Again, we're gonna combine both of these results. Oops, something went wrong over here. 3.98 like this, and then a last combination in which we're going to make sure that we're going to add what we have right here. Okay, so how to deal with it right now, because this is way too bright. So now we can really fine-tune the result that we see over here. So let's see, perhaps I can use some gamma correction in order to make the contrast a little bit less. I'm going to darken the whole result what we have over here. So this seems to be a little bit better. As you can see, we see like a lot of the results of perhaps a little bit of this reddish gloom that we see. It also be useful, as you can see right over here. You can add like a lot of redness to it. But basically you can really fine-tune it until you get exactly the types of colors that you need. And just bring it to the right levels that you need. So we'll do the same right over here. Just setting it a little bit brighter and then changing the gain so it's just a little bit less bright. And we can really fine tune it until we get like this really nice looking result. Alright, and so this is actually almost concluding the whole thing. So as last part, what you can do is just have like global color correction, because one of the things that we did during the rendering is that all these colors are just in a linear color space, and if you want to have like a color space which is somewhat more correct to what you're experiencing with your eyes, you can change the gamma correction, let's say to 1.7 or something like that. So this is going to give you like a more natural looking balance. And again, we see some colors changing over here, so you can really take your time to fine-tune everything and go to exactly those things that you still want to adjust. And so for example over here, I think it's with reflection, so we can lower this value even a little bit more. So that the reflections are not too harsh. And that they're more appearing towards the sides. Something like that. And we see like all the bright spots of wiping the glass. And what we see over here might just be a little bit too bright again. So again, it's just very easy and very easy tweaking what we need to do. So let's see what we have over here. It's perhaps a little bit too much. Well, something like this might be okay. And then you can still continue with, for example, adjusting the wine itself. So get more to something like this, a deeper, darker color. Let's see if we can do the same over here, because I feel that red wine is getting darker much quicker than that. So we get something more or less like this. And darker the wine, with our glasses over here, with finely tuned refractions, with finely tuned caustics. So it's really like having full control. Perhaps a few things that I might want to add over here. So if you're gonna go to this part, hang on, oops, 0.1, so that we still have something like this moving around. See if we make this higher, we get something like this. So that's not the idea. Just lower it a little bit. Okay. And then as last part, what can we do over here? So we can add some glow. So what I'm going to do over here is a color correction. And let's have a look at the offset. So something like this, perhaps even a little bit more. Because like I said, I want to have like this typical glass glare. So we're going to clamp the color again, because else we're gonna have like negative colors. But I want to keep the higher value colors. And I'm going to use the macro that we created the last time as well. So I'm going to use my glare. And like this we see our glare appearing. And also this glare is something we can add at the end. Alright, so now we see with this glare we're having some coloring in a sense, but not exactly how we want it. So what I'm going to use for that is I'm going to use also a matte operator on this version. And let's see what this gives. Now probably the glare is indeed a little bit less, and now the glare is also being colored. So we're getting much closer to real glass effects. I do have the impression that the glare is also still working over here, so yeah, indeed I need to change this just a little bit so that we don't have like those extra glare points. So you need to be always very careful with the intensity of those points. Okay, so to conclude this part, now we have like our images, we have like nice anti-aliasing, so we don't have like extra spilling. Everything seems to work quite alright right now. Still you have like direct control over all the things that you need. Let me change the gamma again. And I'm gonna make sure it's going to give a good effect, although it doesn't look very right over here. One way or another I have the impression that something went very wrong over here. We have a temperature of -1, which is setting the colors, but all the rest seems to work fine. Now if you would start to clamp these values, then of course we're not going to get like a nice result. So this is also something we shouldn't do. And so let's see how we can get to the right color again. Not by going into the negative colors. So gradually you have to play with it and make sure everything gets to the right colors. Something like this. Now of course if you have like different rings, you can also again immediately start to adjust the color of the refraction in which you're gonna see the rainbow effect a little bit more. But like I said, this is how you can really start to fine-tune and tweak everything exactly to what you need.